welcome to the second ever episode of Bases Loaded Banter. I'm your host, Parker Hemway, alongside with Chase Colburn. Chase, welcome to the show.
So happy to be on. I know I met you last year at a play-by-play camp, and I'm so happy to finally be on the Bases Loaded Banter. Really happy to see you have a podcast and everything, and I'm here to support you in any way. Let's rock and roll.
You're one of the people from that camp. I really learned a lot, so I'm happy to have you on and help mine grow. Thank you so much.
Of course, yeah. I'm always trying to support other people in any way. I've been doing this now for about 5 years. Chase's Sports News on YouTube is where most of my work is located. And so, interviewed some people, but I always would just try to, anything I've learned, always try to tell other people. And obviously, it never hurts to talk some baseball either. So I'm happy to join you.
It's always a good time of year around now.
Oh, yeah.
Um, so I wanted to talk about MVP and MLB awards picks. Chase, what would your AL MVP be? And maybe give me 3 reasons why, and then I'll give mine.
Yeah, I mean this one shouldn't be too difficult for everyone, and it should have to be Aaron Judge. I just think that I understand the Kyle Riley hype, and I understand it, but is it a little fluky? I feel like we keep expecting him to slow down, and he won't. So it's been very impressive. He's doing record-setting stuff from a catcher, but I just think in terms of the value you're adding to your team, like how many guys can lead the league in runs, walks, batting average, on base percentage, slugging, OPS plus, runs batted plus, total bases. I feel like he checks every single box, Aaron Judge. And so when someone is doing that, you saw how the Yankees did without Aaron Judge. Yankee fans want to try to forget that stretch. You want to talk about value that you're adding to your team. Baseball, you're only batting one out of every 9 days. If you're a starting pitcher, you're only pitching once every 5 days. An individual player can only add so much value, but Aaron Judge has added tremendous value to his baseball team more than anybody else in the league. And so, if we're living by the criteria that should be set for the award, as is the most valuable player, not the best statistically, though I think that's Judge anyway, I think you have to go Aaron Judge here for what his third MVP in 4 years. However, it will make things difficult if the Yankees do happen to miss the playoffs. And I don't think they will. I think they'll be able to sneak in. Maybe we'll see what they do in the playoffs. But if the Yankees are not in the postseason, I find it hard to believe Judge will receive the MVP award that he deserves.
Another thing, the only downside to Judge's game has been the injuries. He's been out a good portion the last couple of years. I feel like that's the only thing that's really limiting him from being a no-doubt MVP on a more consecutive basis.
Right. And I mean, if you really just want to talk about value, I mean, I think WAR is the top stat for that. He's about to lead the league in WAR in 3 of the last 4 years. That's why he should win the MVP. So look, a ton of credit to Kyle Riley. He's had an unbelievable season, but in just terms of consistency and what you can provide to a baseball team, I think Aaron Judge checks those boxes more.
Uh, nice. I also had that pick. Now moving on to American League Cy Young. Who do you have there? I mean, there's kind of one obvious guy, but do you have anybody else or
No,
the
I mean
main pick?
you have to go Tarek Skubal here. He's just, you want to talk about just an elite starter year after year, and that's what he does. And I think the main thing about Tarek Skubal that's so impressive is not only it's like, okay, the winning percentage, the WAR for pitchers, the ERA, all that stuff, but it's his consistency. What you really wanted out of a pitcher is you don't want to see 5 games you rule out 0 runs in one game where the numbers where there's an influx and you have a 5 run outing where you allow five or more runs. He is just so consistent, reliable, and dependable. And in a stretch this year where the Tigers were really looking for starting pitchers, they were in a very tough spot throughout the season. They leaned on Tarek Skubal heavily, and he picked up the pieces for him at that starting pitcher spot. So I'm very impressed by him. I am going to give you one sleeper name. He's not going to win it, but Trevor Rogers should finish in the top 4. And I'm not just saying that because I am a Baltimore Orioles fan. It's only been 12 starts coming up. I think it was June 1st, I want to say. But since that time, there's not been a pitcher in Major League Baseball who has been better. You look at ERA, the strikeout rate's not there, but you look at the strikeout to walk ratio, you look at the whip, you look at the productivity on an Orioles team that has had really no consistency in its starting rotation. Trevor Rogers has been that consistent presence, that consistent commodity as the starting pitcher number 1. So I understand that he did not play at the beginning of the season, and he's not going to be able to catch up to the accumulative totals and WAR and stuff like that. But he still is among the MLB's top pitchers in WAR and all these accumulative stats as well. So I think Tarek Skubal will and should win it, but Trevor Rogers should finish top 5.
You mentioned Skubal kind of running away with the award, but another guy I believe will finish second is Garrett Crochet. Do you
Yeah.
believe he'll finish top one, two, and how close will that race be towards the end of the season? As Crochet is top among most statistical categories for pitchers.
Absolutely. Strikeouts, ERA plus is up there as well. Pitch more innings than anyone. You want to talk about reliability, 13 and 5, 2.43 ERA. Yeah, Crochet checks all the boxes. And it's the Garrett Crochet that we saw in the first half of last season with Chicago before he fell off in the second half. And that was what Red Sox fans were worried about. Could he have a consistent full year? And now, obviously, we haven't made it there. I don't want to jinx him here, but he has been a very good consistent presence for this team. Yeah, he'll finish among the top, and kind of again just because of his consistency. He does have some performances here and there where he's just allowing good contact, which isn't great. But at the same time, you have to look at the strikeout to walk ratio, and that is what he has absolutely nailed here at the pro level. That strikeout to walk ratio, particularly over the past few months, and his past few games specifically. So, look, Crochet, I don't think will win it, but he's 100% the number one starting pitcher on a Boston team that does have. I don't want to say it's realistic, but they do have championship aspirations, and Crochet's been a major part of that.
I also agree. Another guy, Lucas Giolito. Do you think he'll finish top 10? I mean, he's had a really good year this year, but nothing towards the top. But he's been a really solid pitcher for Boston, as you mentioned. They're having championship aspirations.
Yeah, I mean Giolito's been great. I don't know if statistically he's going to be there. I mean, innings wise, he just isn't among the top. The WHIP is all right. The ERA is not there. I don't know if you're going to get two Boston starting pitchers in the top 10 of the Cy Young race. Giolito's definitely been a terrific piece for that team. Or Giolito. Oh my God, why can I not talk?
Giolito.
Giolito, excuse me. But yes, I just think that I don't think he's going to finish top 10 in the Cy Young race, but he's certainly been a consistent presence for the Red Sox rotation.
Moving on to AL Rookie of the Year, Chase. Who do you have coming out of the AL?
I think it has to be. It's tough. I think it has to be between Nick Kurtz and Roman Anthony. And I understand, Roman Anthony just got that big extension, been great for Boston. I think I got to go Nick Kurtz, though. I actually think that you're not going to see it this season. Obviously, we're late into the year and they're not even competing for a postseason position. We're going to look next year and we're going to see the Athletics, wherever their city affiliation is. What is it, Sacramento now?
I think they're
They'll
going
be
to
in Las Vegas at
Sacramento.
some point. Yeah, right
Yeah.
now they're just the Athletics and no
Yeah.
city affiliation. So we're gonna see. I'm always gonna call them Oakland. We're gonna see the Athletics be one of the best teams in Major League Baseball next year because of the young talents that they have, whether that's Jacob Wilson and that's Nick Kurtz as well. To me, if you have an 1,000 OPS, an OPS plus of 178, 306 batting average, I think it's going to be hard for him to lose out on that award, considering he also has 25 home runs. The strikeout to walk ratio wasn't terrible for a rookie. He's not jittery at the plate. He's just been very consistent. I think he's a core piece for the future of the A's. But considering how Roman Anthony has helped this team have so much success in Boston since trading away Rafael Devers, which I thought was kind of going to be the throwing in the towel of the season. Obviously, that has to be taken into account as well. But I think it's going to be hard for Kurtz to lose out on the award given his statistical prowess.
You mentioned a guy like Roman Anthony, but then the only really knocks on him is the power's not there. But there's no shortage of power when you look at Nick Kurtz, so I feel like
Yeah.
he's run away. But Roman is a close second in my opinion. And you also mentioned how the A's are about to move. They really are starting to build a really nice young core. Nick Kurtz,
Yeah.
Jacob Wilson, and many other prospects soon to come up as the time they move to Vegas. I feel like the A's are in a really good spot that not a lot of people talk about.
I think so too, and I think they were kind of like the laughing stocks in the MLB for a little while. No one was going to their games, no one knew what city they were going to be a part of, and their payroll was literally probably what I have on the desk right now. They were not paying anybody of high value, and that showed because the fans didn't show up in the stands. So they were kind of the laughing stock of the MLB for a while, but they've been doing it the right way. Get bad to get good. Some teams try to do it, some teams succeed at it, and so I hope that the Athletics can capitalize on this opportunity.
All right, now moving on to the National League Cy Young. Chase, I feel like this is one of the easier picks. Who do you got here?
Well, Cy Young, I got to go with Livy Dudd's boyfriend, and that's going to be Paul Skeens. And I think that Paul Skeens is probably right now living the perfect life for someone his age to all of a sudden go up to the MLB level. He's just turned 23 years old, and he is leading the National League in ERA, games started, the fact that he is 7-9 is just unbelievable considering the fact that he has a 2.16 ERA. FIP is great, doesn't allow great, power contact off the bat, good strikeout to walk ratio. He checks every single box. And last year, even though he only jumped up in the middle of the year, he finished third in Cy Young voting. So he's definitely going to make a run at it. I don't see Zach Wheeler getting there now that he's injured. I think that Matthew Boyd could have had a case, but not as strong as Skeens. And then I do think Christopher Sanchez has been so outstanding for Philadelphia that if he plays really well over this next month and a half to close out the season, his case could be valid as well. The only thing that's holding Skeens back is, we'd have to look at the track record. How much does the win-loss record affect how the voters assess pitchers in terms of the Cy Young voting? And it's not going to improve much from here. He's probably going to finish 500 at best. Now, you should look at the WAR, and that should the body of work he's put together this season. The lack of offense in Pittsburgh probably should not be a knock against him. It should definitely not be a knock
Yeah,
against him. But are they going to give the Cy Young to a guy who's lost more games than he's won this year?
I
That's
feel
going to
like
have to be a question.
the thing with the win-loss record is Skeens is pitching well. It's the Pittsburgh bullpen and the Pittsburgh offense that loses it when Skeens loses the game. I don't think win-loss is a proper representation of how a pitcher has pitched, so I don't think it should be factored as much, but we'll have to see how the voters factor that
Yeah,
in.
I mean, I agree. I mean, baseball, it's really is a team sport. It's more of a team sport than any of the big four. It's not like one player can just carry you. And so when he goes to the mound, he does his job. The other pieces around him don't do their job. I am just going to be curious though, because you've seen this in previous years where you have had some guys in the National Football League have some terrific seasons, but their team has not had a terrific record. And can you give someone an MVP without a terrific record? Joe Burrow this past year, statistically, he was among the top. The offense was among the top. The defense couldn't step up. The Bengals missed the playoffs and he didn't get the MVP award. So I know we're talking about a different sport with different criteria and different voters, but it is going to have to be an interesting, I don't want to call it phenomenon, but an interesting thing that the voters will have to grapple with.
Oh, I totally agree. The team puts a lot of like pressure on a player that they might not have deserved based on their statistical seasons.
Right, for sure.
And then now we're on to National League MVP chase.
Well, I think this may be the most obvious one of them all, where I feel like there really is no race to step in this guy's way. Shohei Ohtani, here you come again. Need I say more? I mean, now he's back on the mound and he's looking great on the mound, obviously. But then, I mean, you just have to look at what he's done at the plate as well. And it's just absolutely fascinating how you can do what you're doing on the mound while also leading the National League in runs, in home runs, in slugging, in OPS, in OBS plus, in runs bats plus, in total bases, in plate appearances. His durability on the mound, he is just unbelievable. And he is clearly the captain and the leader of a Dodgers team that is currently on the verge of back to back World Series. I'm not saying they definitely will win that. We can maybe talk about that later, but they're certainly in the mix again. And Shohei Ohtani has been a big part of that. And then you look now at coming back on the mound and you see what he has been doing. And look, it's not like he is breaking any records on the mound, but still a 3.47 ERA, nothing to be ashamed of coming off of the Tommy John surgery. Is it the 2.33 we saw with the Angels a few years ago? No, I don't think it will ever get to that point, but the strikeout to walk ratio was the best it's ever been. And so to see Ohtani back on the mound has been fascinating. And then to see what he's doing at the plate. Look, I got to give a lot of credit to Kyle Schwarber. I think a lot of people were just always considered him a whatever power hitter and, couldn't hit for contact. But this year to lead the National League in home runs and RBIs, to do what he has done at the plate this year has been extraordinary. I think it's a career season for him, or will end up being a career season for him. And he's putting Philly in a great position. As is Pete Armstrong with Chicago. They have one of the best offenses in the league, and Armstrong's been a big part of that. But this award's not going anywhere else. It's coming back to Shohei Ohtani for, is that 4 straight MVPs or 3 out of 4 for
Uh,
Shohei?
it'll be 3 out of 4.
It's so fascinating. Unbelievable Shohei. Yeah, he's on a different planet.
And you
4 out
mentioned Shohei.
of, 4 out of 5 actually for Shohei.
Yeah.
He is quite a player.
And you mentioned Shohei coming back on the mound. That's like an unaspect that no one else has, that he'll always have the upper hand on. So I can't see a world where he doesn't finish top 5 in an MVP for the next like 5 seasons, just because the two of those combined.
As long as he stays healthy, yeah. I mean, it's crazy that the only season he didn't win MVP was when he was 4th in Cy Young voting and 2nd in MVP voting. And that's the year where he had a below 900 OPS at the plate. That's his only season in the past 5 years where he's done that. It was still 875. It was still good power, still put up good statistics, but wasn't able to get the MVP award over the 62 home runs from Aaron Judge in 2022. That's the only season where he hasn't won MVP, where he's competing with a historic campaign from the plate. So truly fascinating, and he will again go down as an all-time great. And he's already up there among the all-time greats as he's going to collect a fourth league MVP award.
And you mentioned a guy like Schwarber. I mean, it's a perfect time for him to have his breakout year, kind of cement himself as not just a power hitter, as he looks to hit free agency and get his contract that he is well deserved. Because now he's known as a great hitter in the MLB.
Do you think he'll stay in Philly? Because it feels like if Philly doesn't win this year, there could be a lot of moving parts in the future.
I feel like Philly could be one of the teams that kind of breaks down Chase. You know, they've had this like winning window where we have to win now, we have to do this, and they haven't really, besides like the championship years, they haven't had like a sustained run. So I think if it doesn't happen this year, Philly's getting broken up, and Schwarber's going to find himself a new home.
Yeah, I mean, Harper's getting older. This year or bust, and who knows when Zach Wheeler's coming back? Who knows what Aaron Nola can provide if he returns? And then obviously you saw the heartbreak with Johan Duran. So it's really been one of the roughest weeks for Philadelphia Philly fans in a long time, and they just got to hope that they can find some pieces in the bullpen and get hot at the right time, and that's baseball for you. But they'll sure be in the mix, and if they don't get it done this year, they may not ever with this
And
group.
and you mentioned Johan Duran. I mean, the bullpen was like their biggest additions at the trade deadline. They got Duran. They got one of the best arms. You mentioned a guy like Jose Alvarado who's not eligible for the playoffs because of that suspension, and now Schwarber may be leaving. There's a bunch of moving pieces that could prevent the Phillies from getting into the playoffs. So
I
I
mean,
don't know.
he was perfect with Philadelphia. I mean, we obviously know what he was did some great things in Minnesota, but I mean, he was outstanding in Philadelphia, and fans loved having him. And to see him go down like that was just truly heartbreaking.
And we're on. We got all the National League Rookie of the Year. Sorry, Chase.
Yeah,
Who I mean, that one's kind of more open in my opinion. There's no real runaway rookie, if I'm not mistaken, in the National League.
yeah, it's tough. There really is no one to me also that has really stood out. I think I'm going to give it to Isaac Collins. Done a lot with Milwaukee. They're one of the best teams in Major League Baseball, even when people didn't know if they could be. The power's not there, but when you're batting 287, 830 OPS, 130 OPS, 133 OPS plus, in his rookie season, those are that's tremendous stuff. Hasn't played the full year, but overall, when you don't have he doesn't look jittery, and he doesn't really have a lot of those rookie, terrible tendencies you have coming into the league. He was very inconsistent in his very minimal time in 2024. Now you come into 2025, and he kind of shaped. He's really come of his own. He's been a fantastic player for him. So it's close, but I think I'm going to give the edge to Collins.
And you mentioned a guy like Isaac Collins. His defense, I don't know how much they factor in defense, but he's been a top left fielder with defensively in the
Yeah.
MLB, which I feel like kind of has to play a factor into it, but I'm not sure how much it will.
Absolutely. I mean, there are two sides to baseball, and to play the position well in the field is such a critical part.
Now moving on to more like standings talk. I mean, you look at the AL wild card, that's probably the closest race that we have currently. How do you think that'll end up shaping out? Which teams will come out on top?
So I mean, New York, Seattle, and Boston are peas, carrots, and more carrots in the wild card spot right now. They're kind of holding those three positions. We'll see how they flip flop. Right now, it looks like they're all tied. I think they're giving the edge to New York, and then Seattle and Boston are exactly tied. So yeah, the Yankees played two less games than both of those teams, so that could also impact the MVP race, as we mentioned earlier. If Rowley or Judge misses the playoffs, the Yankees went through their cold drought. They're not going to miss the playoffs. They're definitely going to make it. I don't think they're going to win the division. Toronto, Dan Plesac of the MLB Network came on my podcast earlier this year, and he said,
Congratulations.
"Thank you." Yeah, and he said people are going to they're not going to understand it now, but they're going to see that Toronto is a prominent contender, and he was right. And so the Yankees or the Red Sox aren't going to catch up to them. I think if you're a Red Sox fan, you should be more concerned. I don't know if the Guardians or Royals are going to be able to catch them. The Rangers had a shot at one point before they've just been an unmitigated disaster as of late, 2-8 in their last 10 games. You flip that, if you're 8-2 in those games, they may be in the playoffs right now. So that cold stretch, they're not going to be able to recover from that. Certainly, my Orioles will not be able to. It's really going to come down to can Cleveland or Kansas City jump one of those teams. I think Seattle and Boston were both really hot and still could not gain reasonable ground. And so, if one of those teams does get cold, if you see a Crochet fall off in the next month and a half, if you see Raleigh be not as consistent or dependable, or if one of those teams suffers an injury, I think that's where Cleveland or Kansas City can sneak in. I think Kansas City could. I would trust them more than the Guardians just because of Bobby Witt Jr., and he's just obviously unbelievable at shortstop. I do think it will be those three teams, but I could very well see Kansas City overtaking one of Seattle or Boston in the AL wildcard race.
And you mentioned kind of Boston being a little like shaky a little bit. I feel like their biggest problem right now is first of all they don't have a power bat, and second of all their bullpen has been very inconsistent. I mean, I'm a Boston fan. I've seen it day in and day out. Bullpen, Garrett Crochet gives you 7, Giolito gives you 5 to 6. The bullpen blows it. I mean, you need a good bullpen to make it in the playoffs, and I'm not sure as a Boston fan if Boston has what it takes to be a playoff caliber bullpen.
Yeah, that will definitely be the question long term, and don't count out Cleveland either. But I think Kansas City when they're hot they can get hot, and so if they stay hot they'll have a chance.
And do you have a sleeper team in the American League that makes it into the playoffs that not a lot of people are going to be talking about, or you think it's kind of like those big market, big teams that everybody talks about?
No, it's the three currently in. It's the Guardians, it's the Royals. The Rangers fell off. The Rays had their streak, but you knew they were going to fall off at some point as well. And then it feels like there's a big drop off in terms of production. The Twins sold everybody and their mother at the deadline, as did Baltimore. So they're obviously out of the mix as well. So I think in the American League, those are going to be the five teams competing. And then you look at the division winners who are also in solid shape. Detroit has gained solid ground over Cleveland in the AL Central. Toronto, as I mentioned, reasonable ground over New York and Boston in the AL East, and then the West, it's the Astros all the time. And I think that could help out Seattle though, because they're only a game and a half out. So unlike Cleveland and Kansas City and New York and Boston, they're not going to be competing for a division title. While Seattle could, so that could maybe help them in case the wild card race does get really tough. They can maybe sneak in to a win a division title over Houston if things go right.
Now on to the National League. You currently have the Cubs, the Padres, and the Mets. How does that wild card shape out in your opinion?
Gosh, it's so tough. I feel like I've been waiting for the Cubs to fall off all season, but they don't. The bats are just so good, and the rotation is good enough to get them there. I find the demise or the disaster that is the San Francisco Giants to be so comical that you start the season so well, then you trade for Rafael Devers, and it feels like you're on top of the world. And I still think it's a good trade. Like they didn't trade anyone that's been that impactful. So I don't know if it was just a change of scenery in a bad way for San Francisco and a good way for Boston, but I I don't understand what has happened there, what has transpired. The fact that they have made a very good trade to get Rafael Devers, and I still believe it's a good trade, but they've just completely fallen off, and it feels like they've been given their opportunities, but have just been a disaster. I think you can't overreact to cold stretches. The Mets are going to get hot again. The Mets are going to get into the playoffs. I think it's the teams we see right now because the Mets are trending this way, the Reds are trending this way. Eventually, it's going to turn, and we're going to see more of a straight line at a point. So I think that the Reds will finish just shy. Can the Mets overtake the Phillies for the division is the next question. I don't think they can. I think they're too far back at this point. But if Philadelphia is that injured, it does bring up a conversation. So I think one way or another, the Mets get in. I think the Cubs get in, as long with the Brewers have really gained solid ground over the Cubs in the NL Central. And then I think in the West, it's the Dodgers and the Padres. And I don't know what the heck happened to the Giants. It's truly a mystery.
And you mentioned the Giants. They kind of we got our big bat in Devers, who we haven't had in a while, and Devers has not lived up to what he even did earlier in the year with Boston. I mean, he's now at first base. I mean, he was a DH, so that maybe has something to do with it. But I really don't know what happened with Devers there.
It's so weird. And you thought for sure that they were going to go on a run that like Luca made with the Lakers in the NBA after a team just kind of fleeces another for a trade. But no, it's kind of completely flipped the script in the worst way possible for San Francisco. And now Boston's in the playoff picture, and San Francisco is the laughing stock of baseball right now. So we'll have to see. Can they bounce back next year? I don't know, but I don't think 2025 will be the year of glory for San Francisco fans.
And now the last little bit before we wrap this up, do you have a World Series prediction?
Do I have a World Series prediction? I think the National League is so wide open. I'll give you this. I love what the Padres did at the deadline. They were the team that was closest to Los Angeles last year. They led 2-1 in that NLDS. Let me get San Diego in the World Series. On the American League side, give me Toronto in the World Series and give me San Diego to win it all. I think that it's two teams that have kind of been in the mix for a while, but San Diego continues to roll. I think if they can get past the Dodgers, I don't know if the Brewers can do it in the playoffs. I don't think the Cubs pitching can be consistent enough for the playoffs. The Mets have so many glaring holes, and Philadelphia has all the injuries now. And without Zach Wheeler and Jahan Duran, I don't know how much they can really do in the playoffs. And so I think it's going to come down to the Dodgers and the Padres. And I think the Padres could get them this year on the coin flip. And in the American League side, Tigers, do they have enough in their rotation outside of Tark Skubal? The bullpen isn't great. The Astros are good. Are they elite enough to get there? The Yankees and Red Sox are inconsistent. I think you have to look at consistency and you have to look at teams that have been in the mix who could finally get over the hump. And I think that's Toronto and San Diego. And shall we have a World Series at that point?
We've mentioned it multiple times on this episode. I mean, the bullpen is really what puts teams over the edge. And what did San Diego do? They added to their bullpen with Mason Miller, and now they have arguably the best bullpen, if not the
Yep.
best bullpen in the MLB with Mason Miller, Robert Suarez, and all those guys at the end of the bullpen when they're
And
already winning to close it out.
And Ramon Laureano going from my Orioles, he's been great there. I mean, he's been an all MLB level hitter in his time with San Diego so far. And
Very,
then
very
Ohtani's going to get
underrated
hot as well.
season.
They have a lot of pieces.
Thank Chase, I really appreciate you jumping on. Thank you so much. Do you have anywhere they can find you?
Yeah, Chase's Sports News on YouTube. If you guys are on X, at Cool Sports Kid, Chase's _ sports _ news on Instagram. Maybe Parker will put the links. But yeah, Chase's Sports
Definitely
News
will.
on YouTube. I really appreciate the invite. I had a fun time chopping it up, talking some baseball, Parker. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, guys, and this will wrap it up for the episode. Make sure to tune in every Friday at 7 p.m. for the next episode. Chase, thank you so much.
Take care.